bad that's trying to possess you?
Feels like a punishment from the Lord.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2021 horror film The Exorcism of God, a film that is directed by Alejandro Hidalgo, and it stars Joseph Marcel, Will Beinbrink, Maria Gabriela Di Faria and Raquel Rojas. Now the film follows Will Beinbrink's character, Father Peter Williams, and we see at the beginning of the film he attempts to do an exorcism on his own. It doesn't go according to plan, and during the process he commits a sin. The film then jumps forward 18 years. He is helping this village in Mexico. It's got great poverty. He's seen by a saint by many of the locals, but he's carried this sin with him all these years. And then an old enemy comes back. There is a young girl within the village who is possessed, and he sees it his duty to try and help this young lady, and he also comes to realise that there may well be a personal connection to him. Right, what are my thoughts on The Exorcism of God? Well, exorcism films, I mean, there are a dime a dozen these days. I mean, all exorcism films, generally speaking, are going to be compared to, the granddaddy of them all, The Exorcist. Just as all shark films are going to be compared to Jaws, which is the best of the bunch. So it's almost like you're setting up to fail immediately, because how can you ever compare to such a fantastic film as The Exorcist? We've seen some do reasonably well over the years, like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and there's a couple of other fine examples. But where does this one sit on the scale of excellence? Well, in actual fact, this is better than you think, this film. I've been looking forward to this one. I've known of its existence, and I do like, generally speaking, possession and exorcism type films if they're done particularly well. And this one is big, brash. It's about as subtle as a sledgehammer. It's completely in your face, but it kind of knows what it is. It's trying to be loud. It's trying to almost be a possession film, but just completely dial it up to 11. Leo, my good friend over at Geek Legion of Doom, it made a great analogy when he said, imagine The Exorcist if it was directed by Michael Bay. And that's actually a really good analogy for this film. It's all kind of dialed up to 11. And it is undeniably effective. There are some intense scenes, I think it's fair to say, of the possession scenes, the conflict with the priest and the demon and all this kind of stuff. And the film immediately tells you what to expect within the first 5 minutes, because he gets to do this first exorcism within the first 5 minutes. And it's quite difficult to watch, actually. You know what I mean? It's as The Exorcist was. There were a few scenes in that which are still shocking to this day. Well, this kind of doesn't hold back either in some scenes, and it does actually make it a little bit uncomfortable to watch. But that's the point, I suppose. But also, as well, as another side of this film, where I think if it had put a little bit more time and effort in to flesh out some of the characters and some of the settings a bit more, I think we would have had, almost like a really, really good film on our hands. I just think it kind of misses the mark in fleshing out some of these characters that you don't really know who they are, where they fit in, and what their place are in the film, almost, these people. And the main settings that we have here in this film is like the village, the Mexican village. It's like an orphanage and a hospital and a bit of a prison as well. And they just kind of feel like set designs rather than characters in the film, almost. And you're not really sure, other than him being charitable to these places, what his real connection is. You don't really see him doing an awful lot of priestly stuff. Certainly not enough, in my opinion. So I think if it had focused a little bit more on these other areas and fleshed them out, I genuinely think we would have had a truly great film on our hands. What we have on our hands here is an over-the-top exorcism film that its focus really is on trying to shock, really, and trying to get you with some of these intense scenes. There is a nice sprinkling of jump scares. We haven't seen jump scares overly prominent in the last few years, but this film delivers some jump scares. But in actual fact, I mean, like many of you, I'm not a massive fan of jump scares in films, but I think this film actually, they feel effective in this film. There's one in particular that really had me jumping almost 6 feet off my seat. It really, really got me. So to me, that's a jump scare that has worked to some degree. Sometimes they just feel cheap. And the exorcism scenes are nicely done. I question the skills of the people doing the exorcisms, because they don't seem to really come out on top in any of them that we see them do. And in actual fact, when we learn about this other priest who's supposed to be like the best in the world at exorcisms and how he actually beat this demon previously, it kind of all makes sense. So there's a lot here to enjoy, but at the same time, I don't think the film does enough to be original and stand on its own 2 feet. And by that I mean it directly copies The Exorcist on more than one occasion. There's a scene where he's walking at the beginning of the film into a house, and it's a clear Exorcist rip off. We get the pea soup and all that kind of stuff, and the film is just over the top and brash and the most unsubtle like possession stroke exorcism film you're ever really going to see. It really doesn't hold back, but it's undeniably effective, and I for the most part quite enjoyed it. It's like a birthday cake with fireworks on instead of candles, I suppose. That's my analogy. So yeah, I had a good time with this one. It was better than I expected. Most exorcism or possession films that I go in to watch these days, I'm prepared for disappointment or mediocrity, and that this one attempts to give us a little bit of a slant on the lack of possession film, but at the same time, you could call it being respectful to what's come before in regards to The Exorcist. But at the same time, there's a difference between tipping your hat to something that you're trying to be respectful to and just downright ripping it off at times. And I think at times it does just rip off some of the stuff from The Exorcist. But yeah, if you like possession films, you like exorcism films, I don't think you're going to be overly disappointed with this one. I think it could have been far better than what we got. But I think what we got was certainly entertaining. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this film. And of course, I'll be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.